have bled. Girls have been married off at a very young age.
All right, let's now link up with the medical correspondent, Dr. Mercy Korir, who's joining us from a city center studio. Dr. Mercy Korir, thank you so much for talking to us here on KTN News Center. So what are the facts when it comes to female genital mutilation? Because Dr. Tatu Kamau is talking about balancing between the law and the cultural practice.
Well, Brenda, I think the issues of female genital cutting are well known to a good number of people because of the side effects or the bad effects that it has, especially on girls, and especially young girls when they are circumcised early on in life. And we know them from girls bleeding to death, difficulties when they are delivering, women get fistula. So we know all these side effects, and that is why globally it's not just a Kenyan agenda that female genital cutting has been outlawed, and we have the the FGM board, anti-FGM board, that oversees this to make sure that this practice does not happen. And this does not just affect girls or women physically, but we know that once girls undergo female genital cutting, then their progress in life, be it education, getting employment, they have less chances of progressing in life because of all these negative effects of female genital cutting. So where Dr. Tatu comes in, I think, is because she says to preserve the culture that has been in our societies is allow women of consenting age, that is adult women, to make that call whether to undergo the cut or not. So some may look at this as having some weight because then it's a woman who can consent, can agree to the cut or opt not to. And when they agree, then, as she says, either a trained traditional healer or a trained medical person does the cut. But then the question that many are raising is, if we know all these effects of female genital cutting, then what is the point of even having any cut at all, be it medically sanctioned or be it under a trained healthcare worker, or a trained traditional healer, if the end results are the same, where it's not just the physical effects on the girls, but also the effect that it has on girls in that they will drop out of school. When they drop out of school, they are likely to get higher training and they're likely to compete in the job markets like any other girls who would have gone through their education, who would have gone through their early life without any hindrances at all. So it's really a catch-22 situation, but we find ourselves as a country where we have to obey, or we have to keep with global laws, UN human rights laws against female genital cutting, and then at the same time balance it with the culture that Dr. Tatu is talking about, Brenda.
And Dr. Korir, it's good you've talked about, balancing between culture and the law. And, that's the argument that Dr. Tatu Kamau is talking about. We need to preserve our culture and we also need to look at the law. But how will that balance? Because if you look at the culture, we've seen several, women lose their dignity, others having problems when they're giving birth, others have died because of FGM. So when you look balancing all that with the law, then how will it, probably happen at the end of the day?
Brenda, I think what is happening currently is that this balancing act is done with the alternative passage of rights, where in the communities that still practice female genital cutting, girls who are ideally supposed to undergo the female genital cutting go through some training, a passage of right, where it's an initiation, it's a training, it's a talk that ushers them into adulthood without undergoing the actual physical cut or the actual female genital cutting as per the traditions. And this is slowly being accepted by these societies as a rite of passage for these girls, because one, you are in keeping with the traditional culture where a girl from one age to the other has to go through a certain rite of passage. So this alternative rite of passage substitutes the actual female genital cutting. And societies are slowly picking this and accepting this. Now, when we still want or insist to have the female genital cutting or the actual cutting, then the question begs is, if the alternative right is being accepted and is working and is ushering women into adulthood, then what is the point of actually undergoing the actual cut if anyway, at the end of the day, this cut is not really beneficial physically to the woman? So these are, I think, the questions and the issues that the judges will have to grapple with when they are coming to a decision on this matter. Brenda.
One of the proposals, Dr. Mercy Korir, by Dr. Kamau, is that she wants the court also to give a ruling that will do away with the anti-FGM board. So in case the board is done away with, I'm just looking at a situation whereby probably the court says, okay, let's give a ruling in favor of the doctor's request. Then it means the anti-FGM board is done away with, so it will create, ways for people to actually force young girls into, female genital mutilation, which will probably lead to early marriage.
Well, we know that for us to have actually even gotten to a point where we had an anti-FGM board, it took a lot for the country. It took a lot of people's mindsets being changed so that they accept that we can look at these things differently. We can save our girls, we can save our women from premature and unnecessary deaths. So the three-judge bench, in my opinion, will have to really look at this. If, for example, they choose to disband the anti-FGM board, then what does it mean to the thousands of girls who are at risk of being forced into female genital cutting, who were otherwise protected because there was a board that was taking care of their interests, and their concerns when it comes to issues of female genital cutting? Then if it is disbanded, then what risk is there to those girls? If the ruling is in favor of keeping the anti-FGM board, then that may actually mean a lot to more girls who are at risk of female genital cutting and those who are being born who would be at risk of female genital cutting. I can see where Dr. Tatu is coming from, where in her opinion, having this cut under medical circumstances where it is controlled, where it is a surgery like any other, then her argument would be like it would be safer, there would be less damage or less issues with the girls. So I think where she's coming from is that if it is medicalized, because that is in essence what she's asking for, if it is medicalized, then there would be not many risks to these girls or the thousands of girls who are at risk of undergoing female genital cutting. Then it will be done under a controlled environment where bleeding will be controlled, infection will be controlled. If at all they would be at risk of any infection whatsoever. And then the risk that we always talk about in terms of difficulties while giving birth or at risk of getting fistula while giving birth, then they are minimized because it's a surgical operation like any other. So I think she might have a point, but then when you look at the larger scheme of things, then you have to look at what benefits the bigger number of the larger number of masses, and probably that is where the judges will lean into. That is probably what they would like to look at as what judgment would benefit a bigger number of girls and women as opposed to a lesser or fewer number of women and girls. Brenda.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Mercy Korir, medical correspondent right there, talking to us from a city center studio. A heated debate about FGM. The three-judge bench is expected to continue.